Guys, this might be the most painful review of a movie I've ever had to do. Minions. I hated watching this movie. And I hated it before. I only hate this movie more. I grew up with the first two Despicable Me movies. I saw both of them in the theater when they first came out. And I remember this when this movie came out in 2015. Super heavily advertised. This is one of the very first Illumination movies where it was so heavily advertised and seen everywhere. And I noticed it even as a kid. And they showed you all the best moments of the movie. I think The Lorax and some other movies did that too. But it was quite egregious with this one. I mean, the whole movie was in the fucking trailer for this one. So when you got to the movie wasn't that funny because you'd seen all the bits. And then I sat down in the theater with my dad and my brother and my sister, and we all hated it. Well, actually, I think they were just kind of indifferent to it. I hated it, and you gotta understand. Like I was like 11 or 10. Like this is not like I'm not a grown ass man sitting there watching this movie and hating. I am now, but not back then. This movie was meant to appeal to kids. I was a fucking kid and I didn't like this movie. And I think that little kids like this movie, but that's it. I think everybody else is kind of indifferent to it, where when they say, oh, I like Minions, they don't mean the Minions movie. They just like the characters, the Minions, and like maybe some of the other movies, because this movie is just awful. But the biggest problem with this movie is it's the obvious bullshit of we're taking a side character, we're making them the whole star of one movie. Yeah, but even then, they could have tried harder than they did. You know, it may not have worked, but at least they could have tried harder than they did. Because you watch this movie and it's literally like has several different plots for no reason. Like, so in the first part of this movie, it's about the Minions want an evil master, which in the second movie, or in the first movie, the Minions turn good with Gru, so it's kind of funny how like they're like, oh yeah, the Minions are so evil. And it continues to be a plot point after this movie. It felt very weird at the time. Anyways, they that's the beginning plot. So then they get to New York in the 60s, and then they meet up with this evil villain. And then they get and then what and then they go they go to New York to find an evil master. They don't if they wanted an evil master, should have gone to Washington D.C. Go to fucking the White House. I'm kidding. But anyways, they go to find an evil master, and then now it's about them going to VillainCon. Then they meet Scarlet, and she's their new evil master. And then from there, it goes to her in England, and then she betrays them, wants to murder them, and then the one guy becomes the Queen of England, and then from there it's I just can't even remember what happens because there's so much shit in this movie that like you couldn't like try to make it coherent. Like I don't know, if there was gonna be a Minions origin movie, if you had to do one, why couldn't it be about the guy who created let's have it be about a young Gru creating the Minions, right? He made them, and then it's young Gru adventures. Why, like that's kind of what the second one is. Like, why did it need to be like the Minions as the main characters? Because this could have been the Minions origin movie. You still could have done that, but you could have done that with another character still being not necessarily the lead, but kind of a co-lead because it's a Minions movie. Like, that's what I don't understand here. They went the route of just so the Minions can't hold the whole plot, and they knew that, so they kept doing all these random gags, and none of it's funny. Like, this is I laugh at points in Despicable Me 2 and 1, and I would imagine even 3. I haven't rewatched 3 yet, but, like, there's points in all these movies that I would say are funny to some degree. Not, like, hilariously funny. I'm not laughing out loud. And they're not, like, the greatest animated comedies, but at least, I can chuckle or laugh at one or two gags, right? This one I can't laugh at any of them. They're just all awful because it's just all like, if I can't even remember any of them because there're just so many, and they just happen like all the fucking time. It's just horrible. And there's like weird shit like, why is there narration in the movie? What, for no reason? Like, what, why can't the minions be like silent cartoon characters? Not like not like don't have them make sounds. But why'd you need narration? I mean, kids like their gibberish, so just let them be gibberish. You don't need to have this fucking weird narration in the movie that goes nowhere. None of the villains in this movie, like Scarlet, are interesting. It's just fucking nonsense. It's also weird that this movie's set in the 60s. I get why it is, because at the end they want to introduce a young Gru, and I guess he would have had to grown up in the 60s. But, like, okay. But again, that begs the point. Why isn't this just a young Gru origin movie where he creates the minions? Why do we need all this bullshit backstory that it's just like, I don't fucking get it? And like, I don't know. And the 60s references were probably the best part of the movie, but they were also very out of place and kind of inappropriate for a kids movie. Like, they got protesters out there, like it parody images of like political figures at the time, things like that. I think it was Nixon. That was the one in the background. I remember. I can't remember, but like, these are fucking weird ass shit. Or Nixon was the 70s. I forget. Whatever. It was all bullshit and kind of inappropriate for fucking kids movies. Like, why is this kids movie set in the 60s at all? It didn't need to be, but it is, and it's just the worst for it. Like, fuck this movie, man. Like, why is this movie the fucking way it is? It really is a shitty kids movie. It just is. Because I feel like as soon as your kid gets about to be about the age that I was when I watched this movie, it won't appeal to them anymore unless they just really fucking love and are obsessed with the minions. Because there are like girls my age back in high school who were obsessed with the minions. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I thought it was fucking weird, but it was, and it just, yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, minions, man.